Hey, welcome everyone. We're starting the live show here to let you know that we'll be getting started in just a moment. We're still seeing a lot of people jumping onto the webinar. While we're taking a minute here to let everyone in, please get comfortable, introduce yourself in the chat, and get ready for some true prospecting goodness over the next hour. I'll also take a minute to hit some housekeeping things here. If you're new to joining events on Demio, please note there's a chat window on the right-hand side. Our lovely Anthony Minier will be running the chat on the LeadIQ side today. I see he's already getting started taking a pulse on where you guys are from. So throughout the webinar, if you have questions or you have feedback, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll be marking questions throughout. We do have some dedicated time for Q&A at the end if we don't get to them just in line while we're having discussion. And if we aren't able to get to everyone's questions, if you guys are extra chatty, which we hope to see, we will make sure that someone from our team follows up with you after the event if we're not able to get your question in the Q&A. We'll have a chat with you or we'll help connect you with the person you were trying to get feedback from. And before I get this question, as I know we will, yes, we will be sending out the recording to everyone after the event to the email that you use to register for the event. So be on the lookout for that by end of day tomorrow. All right. I'm seeing the attendee count slow down a little bit, so we can go ahead and kick off here. I hope you're as excited as I am for what we have in store today. I am joined here by some incredible sales leaders, and we're going to chat all things outbound prospecting, from SDR workflows to tech stack to how to manage a sales team that consistently delivers pipeline growth. Hey, that's what we're all here for, right? So before I get deeper into the agenda and introduce our wonderful guests, I want to get to know a little bit more about you. As we were talking about a group and we were getting ready for this, the point came up a few times that our advice on how to take your prospecting efforts to the next level may look a little different depending on the stage that your sales team and your company is in. The resources of a startup sales team are going to look a lot different than the resources of an enterprise team at a billion-dollar company. So we'll kick off with a poll question here today. So look for that poll to jump up on the screen here. I'm curious to know, how big is your company currently? All right, all right. Looks like we're really a mixed bag. Excellent. I'll give that a minute more to populate. All right, we've reached quorum on how many people have responded to the chat. So it looks like about half of our audience today is sitting at under 100 employees, and the rest are spread out. So thank you for giving us that feedback so we can make sure as we're giving advice today that we're tailoring it to your situation a little bit more. Excellent. So why are we talking SDR workflows today? If you're new to LeadIQ, we're on a mission here to help sales teams make outbound work. We started our journey as a company focused on helping professionals find B2B contact data back in 2015. But we quickly realized that as important as accurate contact data is, it takes way more than just data to run a successful outbound team. So here we are in 2023 with a full prospecting platform designed to make every step of outbound easier, more efficient, and more effective. Another reason for having this conversation right now is, sheesh, it's pretty tough for sales. Probably the toughest economic climate we've seen in the last 15 years easily. I actually saw a poll from SaaStr earlier this week on LinkedIn that was asking what percentage of reps are hitting quota right now. And out of around 1,000 votes, only 18% of respondents said 70% or more of their teams were hitting quota. So I'm hearing that from more and more customers, from more and more colleagues in the industry. So today we pulled together some of the true Avengers of the SaaS world to help you overcome how tough the market is. And I want you to meet them before we get started. So we'll start with LeadIQ's own SDR manager, Alex.
Hey guys, and welcome. My name is Alex Carlson. I'm the SDR manager here with LeadIQ. I'm currently sitting here in Denver, Colorado. Really excited to spit some knowledge on you guys and learn from some other awesome leaders like Tony, Jessica, and Joey here. With that being said, pass over to Tony.
Yeah, pleasure to meet everyone. My name is Tony DeLeon. I'm Director of Sales Development here at this company called Evisort. I'm over here in San Francisco. and really excited to have this chat and really just also learn from a few of the other folks in the team. Yeah.
Awesome. Nice to meet everyone, see everyone virtually. Jessica Nelson. I am the Senior Director of Sales Development at Stream. Super excited for this conversation. Also sitting in Denver like Alex. And just really excited to see the questions and share some knowledge with the group here.
And I'm Joey Williams. I'm the Director of Sales Development at Chili Piper, also here in San Francisco. I've been at Chili Piper for about 2.5 years, where I was initially one of the first 6 or 7 SDRs here. So seeing a lot of change in moving into leadership and now, overseeing the team of 17 reps.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for being here. So we're going to start today talking about the key elements of an effective SDR workflow. We will move on to cover some of the biggest challenges sales teams are facing right now and hear advice from the team here on how we're approaching them. And then, like I mentioned, we'll wrap with Q&A later if you have some direct questions that we don't get to. So to lead into the good stuff, let's get a baseline from the audience here. How often are you reviewing your SDR workflows and making tweaks to them? You'll see a poll pop up with that question shortly. All right, you should see that poll jumping up. All right, I would love to hear that a lot of people are answering monthly, which is the least frequent. Sounds like you guys are in the right place and we're in good company. Great. So the majority of us are looking at our prospecting workflows every single month. You guys should be able to lead today with a lot of tips and tricks on how to make some adjustments here. So at LeadIQ, how we think about the perfect prospecting process, it consists of reliable data, having the right tech stack so you can use that data quickly and not have your reps spending half the day doing work across CRM and your sales engagement tools. It takes knowing how to prioritize your accounts and personalizing your outreach so you can get those conversations started. So breaking down into those key components of a good SDR workflow, let's start with the role of data and targeting and identifying your ideal prospects. Tony, I'd love to hear from you on this one.
Yeah, when it comes to data and finding your ICP, this is typically one of the bread and butter of having a really good ops team is they can facilitate a large portion. Sometimes you'll have 50 to 150,000 total addressable market living inside Salesforce. And so as a BDR, you don't really know where to start. So I think first thing to do is just understand what are the low hanging fruit. Maybe look at close loss report that your AE has had that maybe you haven't touched in a while. But when it comes to data, just making sure that the threshold that you have is above 75%. And then one of the things that I would always tell the reps and something that I've learned from them as well is when you are finding the personas that you're outbounding into, make sure that you're understanding exactly the folks that have the entry point, right? And the folks that are not just users, and you're not just only isolating yourself to just looking for decision makers, because that might actually limit you in terms of how far and how wide you can go in an account. I'll pass it back to you and see if anyone wants to add into that.
Don't be shy, guys.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think the number one thing is if you're running a team of reps and you want them to be reaching out to the right account, you yourself need to know who those best accounts are. It definitely starts with what data you have in your CRM, but also very quickly moves into what the daily process is for your reps to find those accounts. I think something really important, especially a lot of the attendees here seem to be at under 100 employees, probably 6 or 7 or less SDRs. How often do you as a manager actually try to replicate what their process is for working an account to make sure you're smoothing out everything that is going to come up for them 10, 15 times a day?
Alex, him mentioning jumping in and getting on the front lines makes me think of you. I know you, and I know how you run the team here at LeadIQ. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of that yourself too.
Yeah, 100%. I think Tony says, relying heavily on your ops team to give you the direction, but it really relies on the reps themselves to be doing their research and finding a process and sticking to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked a little bit about data and how to make sure you're reaching out to the right people. But even when you are reaching out to the right prospects, response rates and connect rates are also a big challenge I'm hearing about. It's all over LinkedIn right now. Only made more difficult now that everyone's working from home. Used to be easy when you had a bank of office numbers to rely on. And so one way to combat this is to make sure that you are prioritizing the right accounts out of your ICP. Jess, I'm curious, how are you prioritizing when you reach out to certain prospects after you have that list set of who is in your ICP?
Yeah, so I would say that we had a really interesting process recently where it was really from our executive level down, because we have just as many prospects that would fit the right ICP as prospects that would not fit. And for that, for an SDR to say, hey, come in, do your day-to-day, but we also need you to go and figure out what are the right accounts. That's a really hard task to ask of any SDR. So we spent, I'd say, about 3 months really looking at all of the different things that make up the exact right account. And then we tiered them from our CO down and said, these are the right accounts that are really the perfect ones that you should be targeting. And this is the level, right? This is your tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these are the right types of messages that we then built out for them to really take that list off of them having to figure out, okay, where should I be spending my time? What are the ones that will really have the highest conversion rate versus ones that maybe would never be a right fit?
Yeah, drilling a little bit deeper into that. That makes a lot of sense. I'm seeing a question in the chat that I think relates. And how many accounts do you recommend an SDR targets on a weekly basis?
I think for me, it's really based on, you have to look at that entire target market, right? Because it could be for one type of companies, there's 10 best accounts for them, right? And then there could be 100,000. So it's really figuring out what's that right amount and then backwardsing it in from what are we hoping to get at the end of the year from a plan, and then thinking about what's the capacity of each SDR. I would think realistically, an SDR could work maybe 200 accounts at any given time. More than that, and things are going to get lost in the shuffle. But then if you tier it out from that, okay, these are my top 10 or 20 that I'm going to have super personalized. I'm going to be like really strategic. I'm going to know everything about their business versus the maybe 75 to 100 where I know these are going to be good fits, but they're a little bit less of my energy. Then it'll make up this good mix of 200 at any given moment.
Yeah. And I like what you said about working backwards from your end result and knowing if I need to drive this much pipeline, if I need to drive this much revenue, taking a look at those conversion rates, taking a look at your connect rates in the past and saying, okay, if I need to back up, my average deal size is here. So I love taking that data approach and giving everyone a really hard number. So there's not a lot of ambiguity for a rep to know, am I doing what's expected of me?
Yep.
Yeah, for us at Chili Piper, we definitely have a pretty high volume approach, especially for our reps that are working more mid-market accounts. They're adding like 50 accounts a week. In many of those accounts, there's like 6, 7 plus prospects that they're going after. The biggest thing for us to have been able to do that is making sure that our process with our cadences is extremely repeatable to be personalized. So if we just had a cadence and said, all right, here's what you're going to send, and we had people sending them to that many accounts, it would be really difficult for them to stand out. But we've put a lot of work into turning our cadences into almost like Mad Libs of personalization. I stole that quote from one of our new reps who said that's what it felt like. But making it very clear, here's where you're going to insert this type of personalization in the research you can do, and making it very like straightforward where to look for information that's going to make you stand out.
I think to piggyback off that there, Joey, is just also making sure that your cadences are aligned to the expectations you're setting on how much you are prospecting, right? if you ask your team to hit X number and the cadences aren't set up properly, they're going to end up burying themselves in tasks. So I think it's important making sure you're finding that sweet line of, hey, we can hit 100 prospects a week, 30 accounts, but making sure those cadences align with it. So, you're not walking in and having to make 300 phone calls in a day, 400 phone calls in a day.
Yeah. And then just to end it on this one last thing, which is from an operator's perspective, right? Like it's your job to make sure that you're not giving your BDR 150,000 accounts to look at any point, right? Because that's that's an automatic fail. So there's a lot of different tools. So here at Evisort, like we utilize intent data, right? So one of the tools that we're using is 6 Sense. And what this allows us to do is to tier it based off of low intent and high intent, right? So you've got your purchasing decision and you've got your consideration and awareness. Now, as a BDR, you're trying to select, hey, which accounts am I selecting? So there's a balance that you're playing. And that again comes back to, as an operator, you're partnering with your demand gen team and your ops team to make sure, are we showing the BDRs a list of accounts that have the highest propensity to buy? And are we showing them the accounts that also have our ideal customer inside there? Because there might be a balance of both. We might have the ideal customer that we would want that's not showing up in any intent, and vice versa. It might be the one that's having the highest intent, really not someone that's favorable. So I think it's just balancing that and making sure you're letting the BDR just take what you've taught them to be like, okay, cool, I can run, right? And I can choose which one I want to go and select. So that's, I think, ways that you can cut the pie in terms of data. And
thanks, Tony, for mentioning intent there. And a few of you mentioned different ways that you're tiering your accounts and basically giving prioritization back to the SDRs. One question that came up in the chat was, do you recommend tiering the accounts directly in the CRM to help track that data, or how do you approach it?
I can answer for myself. We have everything tiered in Salesforce, so it's very clear. Each SDR has their own report, right? And it says, this is the AE that you're supporting on this account. This is the tier it is. And then there's super clear cadences in terms of here's where you then put it into the right cadence based on either vertical or persona. And then you do your activities from there. So yeah, I would say for sure, the more clear visibility and clear definitions around that, the better it is for everyone.
So let's talk about how you get noticed next, who to reach out to, but how are you going to stand out in the just flood of emails that they have? Do they even answer the phone? What's your approach to personalizing? And Joey, you mentioned your Mad Libs over at Chili Piper. So I would love to know what kind of goes into the strategy behind the Mad Libbing that you're doing.
Yeah, I think starting with things to avoid in personalization. Literally an hour ago, I was talking with our CEO, Nicholas, about what it feels like to get a message that starts with, hey, I see you're the CEO over at Chili Piper. And 50% of sales emails start that way. Hey, I see that you are the director of sales development at Chili Piper. Hey, I see that you're hiring. Whereas if you put yourself in your prospect's shoes and think about what that's going to feel like for them, it's like for me, if I'm hiring a bunch of SDRs and I'm posting on LinkedIn about that, and somebody messages me and says, hey, I see you're hiring SDRs. Like, how would you not have seen that? So anything you do learn about them, I think it's really important to not frame it in a way that makes it seem like you're asking for praise for having noticed something. Hey, I see that you are the CEO. Like, great. What does that mean for why I should keep reading this email? As opposed to starting with, since as the CEO, you're doing this, I wanted to reach out for X reason. So really just instead of starting with like, how can I show them that I learned something about them? Like, how can I tell them the actual reason that I'm reaching out? And if the reason that you're reaching out to someone is my manager gave me this account and I'm trying to hit my quota, if genuinely that's your reason, it's not really going to turn into anything versus I'm reaching out because based on this research I did, I actually think that we can help for this reason. And if you start with that, yeah. What would you, I see the question in the chat. What would you recommend in place of just pointing something out?
Yeah, I was like, I think you were answering it, so I popped it up because I think you were getting to that point just clairvoyantly. knowing that someone was asking for what you would use as the lead in?
Yeah. I think one like small trick to think about is instead of starting an email with I saw, starting an email with the word since. Since you are hiring SDRs, what? Since you're hiring SDRs, I think I can help you with this. And that's so much more impactful than I saw that you're hiring SDRs.
Yeah, working at LeadIQ, I look at my cold emails more than I've ever looked at cold emails in my career. I keep a folder of the ones that are interesting to me so I can think about that for later and talk with Alex, talk with our team about it. And I have noticed that I shamelessly will like compliment, or I just notice things that are really specific to me and the work that my team does. So I sit on the marketing team here and I oversee demand gen and I oversee digital. So the time when someone takes that personalized moment to make a video and a part of our website is in the background and they're giving me feedback about it and like establishing their expertise and their solution, that I've noticed makes me notice. And even if I'm not in market for something they're shopping for, I'm usually going to reply and say, hey, thanks for the time for this. I want to connect with you and just keep you in mind for if I need your solution in the future.
And to keep going on the personalization ideas, I'm lucky enough here at LeadIQ and all the LeadIQ users on the audience, we're lucky enough to have a generative email AI writing tool, which definitely helps speed up the process, but not limiting yourself to only one tool, I think is also really important. I think sharing best practices with your peers, what's working, what's not working, just trying to think of new creative ideas. That's something that I'm forcing my team to do on a weekly basis is not only share best practices, but try new things, whether it's telling a story, dropping a funny meme into a cold email, or just anything to get the prospect's attention, I think is really important. I think the bad part or the tough part is sometimes we fall into a template rant or just consistently send out templates. I encourage all of you guys just to continuously think outside of the box and keep pushing yourself to lean on your peers to figure out what's working and what's not working.
Yeah. And I'll even add into that, right? So we're a proponent user of the LeadIQ Scribe feature. And I think if I look back into the days of me as a manager, as a director, thinking about would I ever use artificial intelligence for writing emails, I could possibly say that I would never do that. Now my team is using it more than ever. And I think it came back into this lesson, which is you want to showcase the best email and you want your BDR team to utilize that type of format in that email until you start seeing the negative effects of it, which is maybe it takes 5 minutes for you as a manager, as an operator to develop that type of email. But you're basically teaching the team that that's the type of email that needs to be sent at that level of quality, at that level of grade. And you need to send that to every single prospect, regardless of their level of, I guess, fit for your company, right? And so now you're spending 20 to 30 minutes on all accounts, regardless if it's even a good account or not. And when you also now look at the types of email that we're getting, I think, Millie, you mentioned this, you're looking at your emails. I just received an email. This is the third time now where it said, hey, as a 49er fan and as a dog owner. And I'm like, all right, so this is now, right? Like what it told me was, hey, that's a good email. Maybe 3 years ago. That's a split. That's an amazing email. But now that's the standard, right? So we need to now be sending these type of emails where there's relevance. There's a little bit of personalization, right? And there's I'm thinking about winning by design. You got relevance, reward, request, all in an email. It needs to be like really damn good to the point where it attracts your attention, because the freeway of emails we're getting now is 10 times what it was before. And that's where using an artificial intelligence tool like a ChatGPT or specifically like LeadIQ Scribe, and you're using the format and the template that you and your sales enablement team have created and built to just modify what the output would be. So maybe you're spending maybe 2 minutes to clean up. That I think is the most important thing when you're thinking about an SDR workflow. I'd rather take that over the 40-minute amazing crafted email. I'd rather take the 30 minutes that we save, maybe 90% of what it would take to make it in 40 minutes. So.
Yeah, I agree with you that like getting started sometimes is half the battle of pulling the research work on personalization, then spending a couple minutes editing that. I answered a question that someone just asked about how long people are spending, because I think you hit that. Your reps are probably spending about 30 minutes personalizing if they're not using an AI tool, but they're spending 2 minutes if they are using an AI tool. And another question that came up on personalization versus relevancy, I think you're hearing that we need both today. You can't choose one or the other. So personalization is going to get someone to start reading your email, but relevancy is going to get them to respond to your email, is how I think about it. I know something that we went through a process on recently at LeadIQ with our own use of our scribe tool was changing the value props and testing different value props that we're using, and already seeing a big change in reply rates just from making sure that the value prop is really aligned with the persona that we're reaching out to. So that's something when you are using one of those AI tools, you've got to make sure what you're feeding into the AI is solid, or you're probably not going to see the results you want to see. So it's not something you set up and it's perfect and you just let it go. You really always have to be tweaking it to keep getting more results and keep growing.
Yeah, I would say I would echo that, and definitely what Tony and Alex said in terms of having a team that's avid scribe users as well. And I'm very lucky to have that. So when you're really modifying, changing the value prompts, looking at what you're trying to drive within the persona, and then taking that right persona from the right accounts. I had a newer SDR, probably like day 30, who was able to, in one email, be a scribe. It was great. It was like 2 days ago. Tier 1 account, set a meeting from that first email, right? And he said, this has changed how I even think about emails, because it really takes what he could have done in a long period of time and do that research, combine it with what the tool's giving, and get an email in 4 minutes. I think that's what he said it was. And it was a win for everyone. So
I'll even add this, right? And this might not be popular opinion, but it's okay if you don't want to send out good emails, right? If that's not a skill that you're the best at and you're better at cold calling, I think what the tools nowadays allow you to do is send out an email and almost be okay by leveraging your strength. So I'm thinking about a BDR that I have in my team, right? And he's, hey, you know what? 85% of all my meetings, 95% of all my meetings are booked on a phone call. If I'm forcing him to draft all these emails just because process is process, I lose out on maybe 50% of all the meetings that he's booking just because I want him to send emails. But now he doesn't have to sacrifice that, because there's a little bit of a middle ground that he can go and say, hey, you know what? I'm still going to make all my phone calls, but maybe there's like these 10% of accounts that I do want to send really good emails for, but I don't want to sacrifice 90% of my time writing them. And so I did want to call that out, because I don't ever want to be the person like that just wants someone to do all emails and all calls and be like a perfectly round shape. I don't think it's possible, right? So,
And to piggyback off that, and again, like Tony said, you don't have to send perfect emails out, but I think the importance of sending emails, and if you're a big cold calling SDR, BDR, sending out an email prior to that phone call turns that cold outreach into warm outreach. If that individual saw that email, they saw that name, whether they replied, whether they read the whole thing, they probably saw your name, right? You pick up the phone, you say, hey, this is Alex over at LeadIQ. I sent you a email. Oh, I did see that, right? Turns that cold call into a warm call. So I think that there is an importance to sending those emails and relying on that once you get them on the phone.
I do really like the comment that it's not one size fits all either. I think targets are really important. You want to hit so many dials, you want to hit so many emails, but it might take a different number of emails and a different number of dials for each rep to get the same results based on what their strengths are. So I do think that it's important that you set those top level goals, but have some fluidity. That's where the good management skills come in, to work with the team you have. Try to improve their skills across the board, but also play to their strengths. A couple of things you guys said about call, email distribution also made me think of a question that I've been dying to ask that some people are very guarded about their answers on. So we'll see how you feel about giving your secrets here, but I'm curious if you'd be willing to share what your ideal sequence looks like and where are you booking the majority of your meetings? Which step, what process in the sequence, and what method?
Dive in there. I think when it comes into sales cadences, sales sequences, there's so many different strategies, right? It can align up to the persona, the tiered account, whatever you're going after. But an ideal sequence for us is usually lasting about 25 to 30, kind of with a 3-to-1 call ratio. Like I said, cold calling the game, I think 80+% of our meetings are booked are from cold calls, but you can't forget the importance of the email and being able to turn that cold outreach into warm outreach, but also giving the sequences the time of day to actually be able to analyze the statistic behind it. You can't use a sequence for 3 weeks and throw it in the trash, because you need that time to see if you're actually getting replies from it, see if you're seeing success and conversion from that sequence. But again, always trying to switch up the message, always trying to make minor tweaks with that, whether that be call first, email first, vice versa. But always, again, trying to think outside of the box and new messaging to try to get the reader's attention.
Yeah, ours is much more focused around the emails. So whereas yours, it sounds like everything is like supporting the calls. That's the main action. For us, it's very much like the emails are the main things and everything else is intended to direct you back to the emails. Obviously, if you get someone on a cold call, you want to try to book them right there. But as far as like additional follow-up, LinkedIn follow-up, like very much like sent this email, here's what it mentioned. And then like just trying to like get their attention once again and try to direct them towards it. The biggest thing for us, and we basically have like diminishing returns on every step in our cadence. So it's like first cadence is going to be the highest converting, first step, first email in the cadence is the highest converting. Second is the second highest converting, and each step converts a little bit worse. So very much trying to focus on, and that's also why I mentioned earlier, we have a pretty aggressive target of how many accounts we're adding. It's because the more first emails you're sending in a day, the more likely you are to book a meeting. And I think the reason that works for us is because we, as I mentioned, make that first email as relevant as possible. You mentioned earlier, like what it looks like to you when someone puts a video and clearly has like the LeadIQ website in the background. It's exactly what we try to do. So for us, we're helping companies convert more leads through their request a demo form or their inbound form. So we're going to actually show like a screenshot of that form to start off the email, and everything's going to be based around what we learned on that form. Or if we're going to help them convert leads through an ad that we see, there's going to be a screenshot of that ad with a visual of what it would look like for Chili Piper to help them book meetings through there. So using screenshots and then like custom GIFs that we make, just trying to show as much as we can.
I am seeing so many wonderful questions in the chat. I promise you guys that we will get to some of these, some that are related to sequences. Just saw a question on what's the process of creating a great sequence look like? If you are new to creating sequences, where do you start?
I think depending on the tool that you're using, I can speak for Salesloft. We actually have some templated cadences that live in the back, so you can just go in and click. I'd say outside of that, there's a lot of great resources. I feel like Gong has some best practices, I think cadences, some blogs on that. But I'd say that there's a variety of different steps, right? Whether you're talking about inbound, event, outbound, where there's just best in class, how many steps it should be, how much time it should take. I have a very similar timeline as Alex does, with just about like 25 to 29 days with probably 18 to 21 steps across it, with the combo of call, email, LinkedIn. I'm happy to, if anybody wants, I could give you some just basic templates if you want to reach out LinkedIn or whatever works best for you. But I think there's a lot of great resources out there. I'm sure Alex is willing to share all the LeadIQ secret sauce too.
And the internet is a wonderful place. There's a lot of people out there who are willing to help you. I'm not saying go steal other people's stuff, but there's people who are more than happy to help. LinkedIn, network with people. I've met several people who've shared cadences with me via LinkedIn off of just a friendly ask. Don't be afraid to get out there and ask.
Awesome. We will hit some of the other sequence cadence related questions in the Q&A. I do want to make sure we have some time to talk about some of the big challenges. Really great advice from you guys so far. So thank you, audience. Again, also thanks for participation. So we want to dig a little deeper here into some challenges we hear about a lot. So we are going to put a poll question in to make sure challenges that we're facing are the same challenges that you're focused on right now. So what is the main challenge that your team is facing when it comes to building an efficient SDR team? Looking at admin work, is it hard to find contact data, no time to personalize, too many tools, or your tools are underutilized? If there's something else that we didn't hit on in the 4 answers were provided here, let us know in the chat. All right. So seeing a mixed bag here, really all of these things are a challenge for people. Not surprising. I know that we've hit on contact data a little bit and the importance of finding your accounts. I know that we've hit on personalization a little bit too. Let's start with time management. We know what our SDRs should be doing, but how do you make sure they're managing their time appropriately across their prospecting activities? Jess, what does your approach look like with your team?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think, Joey, you hit on it, maybe it was Tony, where everybody does things a little differently, right? Like you could have someone who's an amazing caller and is just really struggling with emails. So you want to make sure that they're doing things in time blocks that make sense for them while they're still working towards their own conversion rates and seeing success in each piece. So we actually use a tool that I love. It's like my number one, cannot live without, called Level 11. That's a gamification metrics tool that really helps you backwards into, here's my opportunity target, here's my meetings target, here's my the number of people I want to connect with, here's my activity target. And it really helps define for the SDR where to spend their time. And then as a manager, it's just really digging into that and saying, okay, looking at this, looking at where you're actually seeing success and getting someone on the phone, these are the times that work for you, right? If you're calling East Coast or you're emailing East Coast, maybe don't do it at 7 p.m. in Pacific time, right? Or if it's working, then maybe do it that way. So I think it's looking with each individual, where are you seeing the best conversion? What's driving the best results, and taking that data and helping them really build their business in a way that they can scale it and be successful as a salesperson continuing on.
Awesome. And to piggyback off that again is, I do believe each individual or each rep that you have reporting up to you, a schedule for one rep might be a different schedule for the next rep, and making sure that you're tailoring to their needs. I'm lucky enough that I get to spend 3 days face-to-face in office with my reps, which does help with time management and accountability. One thing that I'm really big of is building out the structure in your day, coming in each day, taking a look at your calendar and planning out each day at the beginning of the day, so you know what you should be doing every minute, every second of the day. Obviously, we're in sales, things change, meetings happen. So that's not a schedule that happens Monday through Friday, but mixing it up through the days, paying attention to at what times things are converting, what time's best to call, paying attention to those stats, I think, are important.
Yeah, I know, Alex, that you guys use calendar blocking sometimes too, to have like a common focus on shared tasks during certain times of the day based on some of that data that you've done. And I know in talking with some of the SDRs here at LeadIQ, that's been really effective for them to stay on track if they feel like they're going to be doing things at the same time that the rest of the team is. If they run into a problem, it's really easy to connect with everyone and see if that's a shared problem. So I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, connecting a few of these things that seem like common answers here. I've seen a lot of SDRs make the mistake of trying to overly script the job, or trying to this is what I do at this time, this is what I do at this time, and that's going to get me to quota. Whereas the people who are the most successful in the role They're like reaching out to the right prospect at the right time with the right message. They're following up with people either persistently or creatively or both, and also just have a sense of when that right time is. So very much in our team, we think about it as there are scripted parts of the job and there's unscripted parts of the job. And the scripted parts are like prospecting. You're going to find the right account, right? It's like theoretically, that's an objective measure of what is the best account that is available within the rules of engagement that meets all of our qualifications. There's not that much art in what prospects you add to the cadence, right? There's who your ICP is. But then from there, like there's a ton of unscripted work in, okay, who am I going to follow up with today? Who do you like wake up and you think, I know I can book a meeting with this person today? I think that's the stuff that doesn't really fit in a like calendar block schedule. And I think the scripted part of the job is where like to the too many tools or tools are underutilized option that a lot of you picked. I think the scripted part of the job is where your tech stack needs to like very clearly define like that process and guide them through it. So for us, you find the accounts in Salesforce, you prospect in Sales Navigator, you use LeadIQ to get those prospects into SalesLoft. That's so well defined. It's not even possible that one of our reps could not use one of those tools. And then the unscripted part of the job is there's a reason we still hire humans to do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you bring up the next point I wanted to hit while we're starting to talk about tools. It wouldn't be a webinar in 2023 if we didn't talk about the economy one more time. If I had a mood board for this year, there'd be a huge section in the middle that said do more with less. And I know we're getting pressure from our finance teams to look at our tech stack, to hit the same pipeline goals. I don't think anyone's pipeline goals are going down, but we are expected to keep doing more with maybe fewer people, maybe with fewer tools on our tech stack. So from a tool standpoint, what are your non-negotiables?
Bite into that. So I think we obviously need Salesforce, but I think just outside of the amenities, I would say it would be Nooks. And that's my dialer. I think on average, our team is making about $150 a day, which is unheard of maybe 2 years, 3 years ago. And then LeadIQ, right? And I think this has to do with the law of diminishing returns. I'm able to take away about 4 minutes per contact that the reps are having to go in and do the dance and song, getting into Salesforce reports and bringing them into outreach. So I think I calculated anywhere about 3.5 hours of savings per BDR per day. So that's pretty huge for me. And then lastly, outreach, right? Being able to sequence them, like those are just like my tools that we use. But yeah.
And to kind of jump over there, I'm a first-time Gong user here at LeadIQ. Helps us do forecasting as well as the call intelligence. When we are in office, we spend time side by side giving call feedback. Being able to go in and break down a call, give live feedback, integrates directly with Slack. So anytime I'm giving feedback on calls, it pops up right into their Slack. Awesome way to just continuously give feedback to your peers. That's something that we do on a weekly basis as a team where we upload certain calls each week. And my team, as well as management, leadership, is responsible for going in there and giving feedback on calls on a weekly basis, I think is huge.
Yeah, I would echo Gong for sure. Gong is just an amazing tool from both the SDR side as well as from an AE side, and looking at deals. It's just a game changer tool. Level 11 that I mentioned is, again, my favorite tool that is just non-negotiable for me. It gamifies, does all the splashes, it makes the gong sound when people do things, which is super fun. And LeadIQ obviously is a big one for our team. And I'm a big SalesLoft advocate too.
Awesome.
For
awesome.
me,
I think,
for me,
oh, go ahead, Joey.
For me, it's anything that fits into that scripted part of the role. So anything that's helping your SDRs find the right accounts at the right time, anything that helps them find the right personas within that account, and then start scheduling out the emails.
Right data, right moment, right message. I think we hit the big three. So We have so many questions in the chat. So I do want to take the next 10 minutes just to hit as many as we can. And like I said, if we don't get to your question, we'll follow up after. So a few I think we answered throughout. Sequencing tools. We've got a mix of SalesLoft and Outreach on this call. Alex, for you, someone asked on the call focus sequence if you see that same law of diminishing returns as you go on.
I think with the name of the game of dialing the phones, it's just all about contact, right? It's a numbers game. You might call them 4, 5, 6, 7 times, right? But then you get them on the 8th time, right? And it can convert into a meeting. I do think if you can catch them on that first or second dial, obviously, you're saving time at the end of the day, but you're not putting more work into it later in the day. But I think it's just a numbers game. And I think it's all about making contact.
Yeah. And Michael asked you too, if that call focus sequence that you're seeing the most success on, if it was more targeted towards SMB or enterprise accounts.
Yeah. So my team, mainly, we're making some changes over here, but my team mainly has been focusing on 500 to about 2,000 employee count companies. So depending, I know segments vary across different organizations, but that's mainly what we're focusing on over here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Jack asks, can you talk about opportunity acceptance and what you're looking for when you make an op? Do you guys use BANT? Anyone using BANT? Anyone doing their own thing?
To be honest, not super familiar, so I might not be the best person to dive in on that.
Oh, BANT is, I don't want to call it old school, but I feel like it's one of the older sales methodologies of using qualification criteria around budget, authority, need, timing, which I think everyone does some form of that, but it might look a little bit different on your triggers based on what kind of company you're at.
Yeah. And I would say BANT is great for inbound, right? Because you have somebody who you want to figure out, do they have money, right? You hit the button, you are interested in us, you want to talk to me. Do you have money? Are you the right person to actually buy something? Is what you're looking for the same thing that I'm selling? And can you actually do this in a time frame that makes sense, like within a month, a quarter, a year, whatever your time frame is? I think for outbound, it's a different story because you are really presenting the value to that person. They don't know who you are, right? You're knocking on their door saying, let's go on a first date versus you saying, hey, I just called you. Do you have money to spend with me? So I think from a qualification perspective, you really have to look at them from 2 different buckets, right? Are they coming to you and do you need to disqualify someone who will never be a fit or be able to buy? From an outbound perspective, if you really do have those tiered targeted accounts, you understand what the use case is, you understand why they would be a good fit. And then it's really on the SDR to say, this is why you should take 10 or 15 minutes to talk with me. I'm working with companies just like you. Take the time. We'll show you what's important. So is it the right person? Is it in the right tier of account? And how do you convince them that they actually want to consider what you're doing? So I think it's two sides of a very valuable coin.
Yeah, I think everything within BANT to me looks like an objection. Like there's no black and white objective answer to do you have budget? Like pretty much ever, or at least not that a sales rep is going to get. I think there's a reason we separate the SDR and the AE role. An SDR's job is to overcome those objections in the context of why don't we have a meeting now? It's not, their job is not to get someone on the phone to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to buy, because otherwise AEs wouldn't have jobs. So I think SDR's jobs is to overcome those objections in the context of, okay, do you have enough budget to take 20 minutes to talk to our AE? And then the AE from there, that's where their job starts of overcoming the objections to actually buy.
Yeah, great. Good points there. So another question here, how do you actually monitor your BDR team's activity to ensure they're picking up leads promptly and staying on top of all their tasks? I know that Jess mentioned that she uses level 11, level 10. I'm butchering the name, but I know it will be on the recording when we send it out with you guys. So if you're not using a tool like that, how's the rest of the team monitoring targets?
I think it's just creating visibility around it. I think that's the most important thing. If you're using we use Outreach over here, or if it's built into your Salesforce. Metric numbers are thing as a manager that I'm looking at not once, not several times a day to making sure that the team's staying accountable to the goals that we've set. Again, outreach and Salesforce, they track that stuff for you, and don't be afraid to have those tougher conversations when somebody is falling behind, but making sure that those numbers are visible for the team. I know personally, myself and what I like to train to the team, nobody likes being in last place. So sometimes it's better to pick it up.
Thanks, Alex. Anna asked, cold outbound is extremely challenging now, way more than it's ever been. No one's picking up the phone. No one's looking at my emails. There's only so much social selling that we can do. So what else should SDR teams be doing, especially if they're targeting enterprise accounts?
I think it's a lot of mindset. Being an SDR, being a BDR, as a lot of people say, it's one of the hardest jobs in the company. Rejection is real. Pickup rates, reply rates are down, but it's part of the game. It's what we all signed up for, but you just got to push through it, keep a positive attitude, and strive for that next meeting, and be prepared for when somebody does pick up that phone. I know the feeling of making 60, 70 dials a day, and you only get one or two people on the phone, and then that next person you pick up or that picks up, you better be ready to pitch, because that might be your only opportunity for the day.
Yeah, I don't know how many people here have read the book Fanatical Prospecting, but I think one point that it makes in that is as long as there's sales, there will be reps telling you that nobody is picking up the phones. And I just don't really believe that's true. Obviously it's difficult. For us, LinkedIn, call, and email are really the only three things we do. We don't invest in any type of send people gifts to hope that they take a demo. And most people don't respond most of the time. So I think that will always be true. So I think if you ask the top performers on your team, if people are picking up the phones, they might be more likely to say yes.
Awesome. All right. I think we've got time for one more question before we wrap up and give everyone a few minutes to get to their next meeting, most likely. Olivia asked, do you recommend reaching out to other SDRs when you're trying to get in contact with a company rather than just reaching out to your decision makers like VPs, directors, CROs, CXOs?
I think it's a very interesting technique. I think depending on who you're selling into, it can work very well. I've seen it work very well because an SDR reaching out to another SDR, right? It's almost like a trade-off, right? I will introduce you to the right person at my company. Will you introduce me to the right person at your company? If you're targeting a true enterprise-sized company, you'll probably have challenges with that. If you're targeting somewhere in a mid-market, I'd say 100 employees to 1,000 employees, the chances that SDR will at least be able to help is pretty high. And they're going to be willing to. So I think if nothing else, they can give you some insight. The caveat I would put on that is as long as the SDR understands that that's not the decision maker, right? And they're doing this for some research, for a nice warm intro, for some help and to get somewhere in the account, but it's not like setting SDR meetings up with their AE. So I think as long as you're really clear on what the goal is for that, I think SDRs want to help each other, right? Everyone just wants to help each other. They want to help you get to the right person. So I don't think it would hurt.
Yeah, Jessica, I just want to add on to that, which is treat your time as almost like expenditures of calories. You want to watch the calories that you're spending on the right places. Obviously, if you're selling to sales enablement, and you're selling to VP of sales, and that's your persona, spending time with a BDR, understanding their workflow is similar to a company selling into legal or procurement, understanding what a procurement manager's issues and challenges are before you go directly to a CLO. But I think in the same vein, maybe if you're selling into a strategic or enterprise company, maybe speaking to an analyst where there's 500 analysts in a company might not be the best use of your time, because then you're again, like wasting your breath, right? Maybe what you're walking out of that call, you might get some valuable information, but it also might not be what the decision maker is thinking about when you're thinking about recession time that we're going through and what's top of mind for them. You're only looking at it from a perspective of, what a user cares about, feature functions, right? Feature functions versus maybe understanding a higher level of pain that they're receiving from a decision maker, which the closest thing you'll get there is maybe an executive. Underneath there, you've got VP. Underneath that, you've got the director, and then maybe a manager. I'm always speaking for like enterprise and strat, but of course, the smaller the company, maybe the BDR is the only salesperson in the company. So just use that as, I think, a guiding point.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. And just again, appreciate this crew. You guys were rock stars today. And thank you to our audience for all the thoughtful questions. I learned a few things. I hope you did too. We've also got our homework cut out for us. We did not have enough time in the hour to get to all your questions. So we will be following up with everyone on our advice. And I invite you to connect with me if you'd like to talk further, connect with any of our panelists today. And if you are interested in learning how you can make outbound work better by using a prospecting platform like LeadIQ, you can also see a call out in the bottom left to book a demo, and we'll reach out to you as soon as possible. By end of day tomorrow, we will send out the recording for this today. And just thank you again for a really fun afternoon. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll wrap here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.